Welcome back to You Heard It Here with Dr. Gary. These last few months have been an amazing journey. We started doing YouTube videos, some educational, some just for entertainment. We've brought you videos this year, the link between diabetes and hearing loss, what to expect when having a hearing test, and the newborn hearing screening. What is it really? We've also brought you a whole ton of videos, wax removals. Me pulling stuff out of people's ears. Yeah, those are actually the most popular. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today, I want to kind of forecast what I'm seeing in the hearing healthcare industry. I want to explain the trends, some of their pros and cons, and really let you know what's coming down the pipe for 2023 and beyond in the hearing healthcare industry. We're going to look at how OTCs, or over-the-counter hearing aids, are affecting the hearing healthcare industry. Whether Medicare is or will ever cover hearing aids. Third party, what is it? And different methods for purchasing hearing aids. Is one business model or method best for the patient? What's right for you? That's what we're going to look for. My goal is to make sure that you're educated and you understand the pros and cons of each of these trends so you can make informed decisions for your hearing healthcare needs. Let's get started. As we exit 2022 and we move into 2023 and beyond, OTC, or over-the-counter hearing aids, are going to be a major part of the hearing healthcare industry. Whether this is a good thing or a bad thing is really yet to be seen. I just want to give you some information because it's a massive trend that we're seeing in the hearing healthcare industry. First, let's step back. In 2017, the OTC hearing aid bill was passed. It was put before the FDA for rules to be created for these products as to how they needed to be marketed, how their packaging needed to be, what their limits and output and gain could be, who could sell them, who could use them. Those were all things the FDA needed to make rules about. Then along came this small problem called a pandemic. Yeah, I know. Much more important that the FDA work on that issue than the OTC hearing aid issue. So things got delayed. Now let's fast forward to 2022. The FDA is finally having somewhat of a control over the pandemic, and they've released their rules for the OTC hearing aids. In October of 2022, the first OTC products were available for sale. Now there's a lot of products out there. I haven't had a chance to play with them all. The ones that I've had a chance to look at, they have their pros and cons. A few things that you should understand about the OTC hearing aids. First, OTC products are designed for people to use without having their hearing tested. These are for people with a perceived mild to moderate hearing loss. Now there are some inherent problems there. First and foremost, people are really bad at determining how bad their hearing really is. In fact, as an audiologist, most of my patients come to me and say that they hear fine, even when they have a moderate, severe, or even profound hearing loss. They just don't realize how bad their hearing has gotten. Their loved ones may realize it, but the actual patient is oftentimes in denial or underestimates their actual hearing problem. We are really bad at identifying our own weaknesses. Second, these products do have limitations as to the gain and output, which means if you do have a hearing loss that is outside of their fitting parameters, there is not enough reserve gain for you to get long-term benefit. Most patients like hearing aids, even prescriptive hearing aids, set below where they should be. So initially, people are going to love that, the lower volume. Over the next few months, they're not going to get the gain that they want, and then they're going to look for more, and it's not going to be available. Now, that being said, we do run into the same problem with prescriptive hearing aids when they're not fitted properly. So you do need to make sure when you are using a prescriptive hearing aid, you're asking your hearing healthcare provider how much reserve gain is left in these devices. Third, the pricing is anywhere from about $700 a set all the way up to about $1,400 a set. These products seem to have a 1-year warranty, which makes me feel like these companies are actually only expecting them to last for a year or a year and a half. So when it comes to really saving you money, the concern is if you're spending $700 to $1,400 for a 1-year Band-Aid and then eventually moving into a prescriptive hearing aid, you're actually spending more money than you need to. Yes, hearing aids are expensive, and we're actually going to talk about some different models under which you can purchase hearing aids coming up. But understand, if you are outside of the fitting range for an OTC product, you're going to get 6 months, maybe a year out of it, and then you're going to be buying a full prescriptive device. You're better off if you just start with the prescriptive device. If you are thinking about going the route of an OTC, I understand that you don't need a hearing test, but I strongly encourage you to get one, because if you have a hearing test prior to being fit with an OTC or prior to fitting yourself with an OTC, at least you'll know if your hearing loss falls within that mild to moderate category. Make sure it's going to be appropriate before you spend that much money on it. OTCs, are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? And are they going to have a real effect on the hearing healthcare industry? That's really yet to be seen. I'm filming this in December of 2022, so it's only been available for approximately 2 months. We'll do a follow-up video in 6 months or so to really tell you where we are. Now, I did do a review of the Sony OTC hearing product. I'll put a link in the description so you can see that video if you choose to. So that's really what's going on with OTCs. One of the first trends that we're seeing in 2023 and beyond. The next trend I'm seeing in 2023 and likely well beyond is an increase in third-party administration for benefits for hearing aids. Before we get into that, I want to answer the most common question I get. Does Medicare cover hearing aids? The answer is no. Your red, white, and blue card federal Medicare does not cover hearing aids. Yes, there was at one point some language in, I believe, the Build Back Better bill that talked about having Medicare cover at least a portion of hearing aids. That language was removed well before that bill was struck down. So no, at this point, federal Medicare does not cover hearing aids. They do cover diagnostic hearing tests. So a hearing test every year is a benefit under federal Medicare. They just won't cover the actual hearing aids. Now, let's talk about third parties. So these third parties, and I'll give you a few of them. There are actually a ton, but for example, Hearing Care Solutions, United Healthcare Hearing, True Hearing, those are just 3 of them. I mean, there's literally probably 30. They offer the hearing aids at a discounted price. Now, people hear that hearing aids are going to be cheaper, they're at a discounted price, everybody's all in. There are some concerns that you need to understand before pursuing a third party. Number 1, that third party will limit what your hearing healthcare provider is allowed to select for you. They will have certain hearing aids on contract. Those are the ones that you're allowed to order. Number 2, they will limit your service. So for example, in my office, when we use a bundled pricing model, which we'll get into different pricing models here in a little bit, but when we use a bundled pricing model, we offer patients a lifetime of cleanings and adjustments on the hearing aids. So that means a year after you buy it, 2 years after you buy it, 3 years after you buy it. If something goes wrong with the hearing aid and it's something we can fix in the office, or if you need it turned up or adjusted, or your hearing changes so we need to make a change to the prescription, there's no cost. With these third parties, your service is significantly limited. Most of them will offer you 3 visits. That's it, 3. Or 1 year worth of service, whichever is shorter. This means that if the average lifespan for a behind-the-ear hearing aid is 5 to 7 years, you will be paying for service on top of the cost of the hearing aid for at least the next 4 to 6 years. Some patients are lucky and they keep their hearing aids longer, especially when they take really good care of them. And some patients like to change out their hearing aids more often. But if you keep a hearing aid for 5 years, service is only covered for the first year. That means every time you walk in the office, even if it's just to have help changing the wax guard, having something cleaned, or if it's programming, you will be charged. So keep in mind, depending on the rates that you're charged, and that rate is dependent on the overhead for the office to stay open, that will determine how much savings you actually get. Unfortunately, when we run the numbers, and we have a lot of patients who use third parties, the average patient does not save money. They pay a little bit less up front, but after about that 5th year, they've actually paid the same amount, if not more, than a patient who chooses a bundled model. So, an increase in available benefits through a third party is definitely a trend that we're seeing in 2023, and I'm sure it's going to continue as we move forward. Now, there is another caveat to this that I want you to understand. If you have a third-party benefit that is not just a discount, if there is truly money that they pay, for example, if the copay for the hearing aid is $2,500, but your insurance covers $2,000, well, your copay would actually only be $500. That means that you have a benefit that is forced through a third party. In that case, you actually end up saving money in the long term, because even those service fees are not going to overcome the amount of money that you saved. So, third party with just a monetary discount is not really a savings. It's basically a hearing aid, less expensive up front. You pay for the service as you go. If you have one of the plans that actually offers money and reduces the copay for that hearing aid, then yes, it may be worthwhile for you and you may save yourself some money. Make sure you know your insurance benefit. Ask your hearing healthcare provider to verify your benefits. Ask them if they're in network with your health insurance, and check your benefits. Because believe it or not, many insurances cover at least a portion of hearing aids. Now, not federal Medicare, but many replacement plans will offer you the discount through third parties. Again, that saves you money up front, but not in the long run. Some will actually have money that they apply towards your co-pays for hearing aids, and many private insurances actually cover at least a portion of the cost of hearing aids. The days of health insurance not being involved in hearing health care should be over. Unfortunately, too many providers avoid health insurance because they don't want to deal with third parties and they don't want to deal with billing. Make sure your hearing healthcare provider takes your insurance, verifies your benefits, and takes the time to educate you as to whether you have a coverage or a discount. And just remember, that quote-unquote discount may not actually save you money in the long run. It may actually be more expensive for you. So third parties and insurance is a trend that we're seeing in 2023 and beyond. Another trend that we're seeing as we move into 2023 is different business models. The traditional way of purchasing hearing aids is through what we call bundled service. This basically means that the cost of the hearing aid encompasses your service, your cleanings, adjustments, and anything else associated with the hearing aids. The advantage to this model is you pay for everything up front, and then if you have the hearing aid for 5 years, there are really no more bills associated with the hearing aid unless it needs to be sent back to the manufacturer after the manufacturer's warranty. So there's no bills for in-office services. The trends that we're seeing are many places are even limiting this. Instead of going with a lifetime or device lifetime worth of cleanings and adjustments, they're reducing it down to a manufacturer's warranty, a manufacturer's warranty period for adjustments, or 5 years, whatever they select. Okay, so we're starting to see that trend. The next trend is unbundling. Now, this ties back into third parties, and with third parties coming in and paying hearing healthcare providers less money and asking them to provide lower level service, what we're really seeing is a lot of offices going the unbundled route. What unbundled service means is you pay a fee for the hearing aid. You then pay a fee for each appointment. You will pay a fee for the fitting. You will pay a fee for every programming, for every cleaning, for every adjustment. The biggest advantage to this is for patients who are longtime hearing aid users that only need to be seen very rarely. This can save you a ton of money. On the other hand, for new hearing aid users, where you're going to be seen 3 or 4 times in the first few months, and then you're going to be seen a couple of times a year after that until you really get acclimated and understand everything you're supposed to be doing with the hearing aid, and you're not going to have a lot of those questions and concerns, this can actually be a big financial problem. You feel like you saved money up front, but then every time you need something, you get charged. Invariably, what happens is you will have a small problem. You will put off addressing that small problem because you don't want to pay the service fee. And then you'll eventually get frustrated and go in, and your hearing healthcare provider will fix the problem in a few minutes, and you become even more frustrated because something that's been driving you nuts for 6 months, they fixed in 2.5 minutes. So understand, if you are not a tech savvy person, or you are not a person who really understands what you're doing with hearing aids, unbundled may not be the way to go. Yes, it saves you money up front, but on the long term, if you can't handle the small problems yourself, it will cost you just as much, if not more. Every clinic that I've talked to that is doing this will openly tell, at least tell other providers, unbundled is not a reduction in revenue. Unbundled actually is an increase in revenue. The only way that unbundling is an increase in revenue is if it's costing the patient more money. Yes, it feels good to save a little bit up front, but if you're saving it up front and it's costing you more on the back end, again, did you really save money? Now, there are a lot of people who move, travel, or have multiple homes that feel like unbundled is the way to go because yes, it may cost them more, but now they get equal service wherever they go. That's a great reason to do it. Unbundling is not going to be for everybody, but unbundled options are definitely a trend that we're seeing in 2023 and will likely continue well into the future. This is another trend that I'm seeing that I really kind of like. Leasing of hearing aids. Yeah, I know, it sounds ridiculous, right? Why would you lease a hearing aid? Well, let's say, for instance, a hearing aid cost you $6,000 for a set of hearing aids. Okay? If you could lease that same hearing aid for $170 a month, or approximately, that's a lot easier to swallow. It's a predictable monthly payment for the same reason people lease cars. They like newer technology as it comes out. They like the option of change. By leasing your hearing aids, what you're doing is you lease them. They're owned by a leasing company. You use them for a term of either 3 or 4 years. You make your monthly payment. At the end of 3 or 4 years, depending on your lease, you have the option to either pay out the lease and buy the hearing aids. Looking at the numbers, I really would not recommend that because you will very significantly overpay for the hearing aids. Or you trade them in and you move into a new set of hearing aids with updated technology. For the patients who are going to be changing their hearing aids every 3 to 5 years because they like the newest technology, this is actually a pretty good benefit. Now, there is one limitation. Once you turn your hearing aids in, you no longer have your old hearing aids as a backup. However, if you do like the newest technology always available to you, you may want to ask your hearing healthcare provider if a lease option is available. Now, the 2 numbers I gave you were numbers for what in our office would be top of the line hearing aids. You're looking at about $6,000 for the set versus about $170 approximately a month for a lease. Pricing everywhere is going to be different, and there are some things that need to be different. For instance, it's really important that the warranty for the hearing aid, including loss and damage, runs for the entire term of the lease. The last thing you want to have happen is have your loss and damage warranty expire, you lose the hearing aids in, say, the 4th year, and then you have to pay the hearing aids out and you don't have them. That's really a bad thing, a bad outcome. So make sure that your warranties run for the entire lease period. If your hearing healthcare provider is participating in a lease program, they'll have all that information and will be really well versed in what to have you look for. Ultimately, this leasing does not save you money. Okay? Leasing, just like when you lease a car, in the long term, actually costs you more money. But if you're the patient who likes to have a predictable monthly payment and always wants to have the option of having the newest technology, leasing hearing aids is a great option that's been available for a few years now and is becoming more and more prevalent in 2023 and beyond. Yet another trend that we're seeing this year is an increase in the amount of people exploring the option of extended wear hearing aids. Most common extended wear hearing aids is Lyric. Lyric is a device that is semi-implantable. It's put in the outer ear by your hearing healthcare professional. It's very aesthetically appealing and stays in the ear for up to about 2 months. Every 2 months you have to be seen and the device is changed, and you do this on a yearly subscription. Now, again, this is not the most cost-effective way to treat your hearing loss, but it is one of the most aesthetically appealing ways. If you're the person who's really afraid that anybody will ever see your hearing aids and you want to hide them as best you can, extended wear hearing aids are a trend that you're going to love. You do lose some things. For instance, you don't have Bluetooth. You don't have ear-to-ear communication. In a device that small, getting a Bluetooth receiver in a reliable battery source that would last 2 months is not feasible. However, if you're that person who wants to hear better and go about their daily life, be able to sleep with your hearing aids on, be able to take a shower with them on, surface swim with them on. Extended wear hearing aids are a trend that have been around for several years, and in 2023 looks like it's becoming even more popular. So these are some of the trends that we're seeing. OTC products, third-party administration and insurance coverage, extended wear hearing aids, unbundled pricing models, leasing option. These are things that have been available for a little while, but the trend in 2023 and beyond is going to be an increase, because with the advent of OTC and the notoriety that the hearing healthcare industry is getting, both good and bad, there is definitely going to be a push to increase options to give patients more control over their hearing healthcare. Ultimately, the reason we treat our hearing is not to just hear our loved ones. It's to help to prevent age-related cognitive decline. Age-related cognitive decline does not start in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It starts in your 30s and 40s, and possibly even younger. When you have a hearing loss, you need to treat it. Identify it. The sooner you treat it, the better you're going to do long term. I'm very hopeful that these trends in 2023 and beyond are going to help the hearing healthcare industry help many more Americans hear and understand and enjoy life to the fullest. This has been You Heard It Here with Dr. Gary. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to letting you know how these trends pan out as we move forward. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.